Your money mindset. I didn't always have the right mindset when it came to money. For most of my early adult life, I operated like a typical consumer. I worked, spent what I earned, and repeated the cycle. I thought I was doing everything right. I paid my bills on time. I clocked in and out without missing shifts. But I still lived paycheck to paycheck, always one small emergency away from falling behind. I didn't realize then that the real problem wasn't my income. It was how I thought about money. There came a time when I started to feel stuck. No matter how hard I worked, I never seemed to get ahead. I blamed it on not making enough. I blamed inflation. I even blamed my luck. But one night, after scrolling through my banking app and seeing a negative balance again, I stopped and asked myself what I was doing wrong. That moment wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some breakthrough epiphany. It was just quiet and real. I knew something needed to change. And I knew it had to begin with me. I realized I wasn't creating anything. I was just consuming. I worked for money and spent it on things that gave me temporary comfort or distraction. I didn't invest in myself. I didn't build anything that could help me grow or earn beyond the hours I worked. I was always reacting. I bought what was easy. I entertained myself when I was tired. I used my money and my time to escape my stress instead of dealing with it. When I saw how much I had spent on takeout and subscriptions over the past few months, it made me pause. That money could have gone towards something lasting. It could have bought a course. It could have gone into savings. It could have helped me start something. The first step was changing how I saw myself. I stopped thinking of myself as someone who just survives. I began to see that I had the potential to create, to offer value, and to earn in ways I hadn't thought about before. I didn't have a business degree or a background in finance. What I had was the ability to learn and the willingness to try. That mindset shift opened doors. I stopped seeing money only as something I earned and spent. I began to see it as a tool I could use to build a different kind of life. At first, I was nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt inexperienced. The fear of messing up was real. What if I failed? What if people laughed at me? What if I wasted time and had nothing to show for it? Those doubts kept me frozen for a while. But I eventually reached a point where the fear of staying the same became worse than the fear of trying. I decided to take small steps. I didn't quit my job or invest money I couldn't afford to lose. I just started looking for ways to use what I already had. I remember offering to help a friend with their resume. They had a job interview and didn't feel confident. I had always been decent with writing, so I helped them clean it up and practice answers to common questions. They got the job, and they paid me back with a gift card and a thank you note that said I should do this for others. That's when it hit me. I had skills that people valued. I had something to offer. I just hadn't been using those skills in ways that could help me grow financially. With that small win, I started offering resume services online. I kept my prices low and used free tools to get started. I didn't make a lot of money at first, but it wasn't about that. It was about proving to myself that I could create value, that I could earn without being stuck in the cycle of clocking in and out. It gave me a sense of control that I hadn't felt before. Even though it was scary, doing something new made me feel alive. I no longer felt like a victim of my circumstances. I started learning more about freelance platforms, digital skills, and side hustles. I watched videos, read articles, and asked questions. Every time I put in effort, I learned something. Even when it didn't lead to money right away, I still grew. That growth gave me confidence. It helped me believe that I could do more than just survive. The fear of inexperience never fully goes away, but I learned how to move through it. I stopped waiting to feel ready. I realized that nobody ever feels completely ready. You become ready by doing, by starting small, by making mistakes and learning from them. Every time I acted despite my fear, I became a little braver. That courage carried over into other parts of my life. I became more assertive at work. I spoke up when I had ideas. I started budgeting with purpose and tracking where my money was going. I began to feel like I was in control, not just along for the ride. Another big shift for me was learning to think long-term. That was hard. I had always lived with a short-term mindset. Get paid, spend, survive, repeat. I never thought much beyond the next paycheck, but I started to ask what I wanted my life to look like in 5 years. Did I want to be in the same place? Did I want to still be stressed about money and working just to get by? The answer was no. But wanting change wasn't enough. I had to act differently. Building a long-term mindset meant delaying gratification. That was one of the toughest things to practice. It meant saying no to things I wanted in the moment, so I could have something better later. It meant skipping takeout, so I could save toward a laptop I needed to do freelance work. It meant investing time in learning, instead of zoning out with entertainment. These choices were uncomfortable at first, but over time, they became habits. I began to enjoy the process of working towards something. I stopped chasing quick rewards and started building for the future. I also learned to be patient with myself. I didn't expect overnight success. I gave myself permission to learn at my own pace. When I hit setbacks, I reminded myself that they were part of the process. I stopped comparing myself to others. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to be consistent. Progress, even slow progress, was better than standing still. Some days were frustrating. Some weeks, I made no extra money at all, but I kept going because I believed in what I was doing. I believed that every small step was leading somewhere, and I was right. Over time, my income grew. So did my confidence. I started setting bigger goals and dreaming beyond survival. That mindset change was the most valuable thing I've ever earned. It didn't come from luck or talent. It came from a decision to think differently. As I kept working on my mindset, I began to notice how different life looked when I chose patience and long-term thinking over impulsive decisions. There were times I felt like giving up. Progress was slow. People around me didn't always understand why I was putting in so much effort for such small financial results. But I kept reminding myself that I was building something bigger than just a few extra dollars. I was building habits. I was building a foundation. Most of all, I was building a version of myself that didn't crumble when things got tough. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn was that real growth takes time. I had been so used to instant results. If I wanted something, I'd buy it. If I needed a break, I'd scroll or binge watch something. But changing how I viewed money meant stepping back from that kind of thinking. I had to learn how to sit in the discomfort of waiting. I had to trust that the work I was doing now would pay off later. And slowly, it did. Over time, I began to see how much stronger I had become. Not just financially, but mentally. I didn't panic the way I used to when an unexpected bill came. I didn't feel powerless when work slowed down. I knew how to create opportunities for myself, even when nothing obvious was available. I had gained skills, confidence, and a sense of direction. And it all started because I chose to see money differently. I realized that I didn't have to be rich to have a healthy money mindset. I just had to think beyond the moment. I had to believe that what I was building would grow with time, care, and effort. That belief kept me going when things were slow. It also gave me peace. Even if I wasn't where I wanted to be yet, I wasn't stuck anymore. I was moving. That movement gave me hope. There's something powerful that happens when you take control of your thinking. You start seeing possibilities everywhere. You begin to notice gaps that you can fill, problems you can solve, and people you can help. And when you help others, you create value. That value becomes income. It becomes impact. It becomes freedom. But none of that happens until you decide to stop being just a consumer and start being a creator. I still face doubt sometimes. I still make mistakes. But I know how to get back on track. I know how to listen to that small voice inside me that says, keep going. You're building something worth waiting for. I don't need to see the whole path to keep walking forward. I just need to stay focused, stay patient, and keep creating. The money comes, but the mindset stays. That's what makes it powerful. When I look back, I see how small choices added up to a complete transformation. One decision to learn instead of spend. One choice to build instead of scroll. One act of courage to offer a service when I felt unsure. Those small actions gave me momentum. And that momentum changed everything. I still have goals I'm working toward, but I carry them with a sense of calm now. I trust myself. I trust the process. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's that your mindset is the most valuable tool you have. You don't need permission to start. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You just need to take that first step and believe that every effort matters. You have more power than you think, and once you start thinking like a creator, that power becomes real.